Good day. I used to live in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, one of the stark realities you'll get to see is that dogs are nowhere to be found. But dogs exist in Saudi Arabia. They just that they are not in the cities, they're not, you are not, you don't, they're not people's pets. They are not found around anybody, but they are in Saudi Arabia. They're in the desert. They're far away from humanity. They are chased and hunted down, and they are not welcome. Because you see, in Saudi Arabia and in most parts of the Muslim world, dogs are considered dirty. Yeah, they are dirty. That's how they are viewed. Then you come to America. It's an unbelievable reality. Dogs are as important to Americans as any of their children. There is a big and huge dog and pet industry. It is beyond belief. Dogs are treated and they have rights. In some cases, they even have more rights than some particular grades of human beings in America. Dogs are pushed in prams or what people call strollers here. They have clothes, they have summer clothes, winter clothes. Dogs are special. And the pet industry in America is a multi-billion-dollar industry because dogs are special. These two realities exist in this world. And I say this because there's a stark difference in the reality between the presidency of Biden, President Biden, and the presidency of Donald Trump. Today we saw history in the making. President Donald Trump had a summit with President Putin of Russia in Alaska, in an Air Force base in Alaska. And a few years back, right about 4 years ago, President Biden also had a summit with President Putin. That summit was cold and frigid as the city in which it was held. It was one that foretold a new unsalvable reality for both Europe and for the Ukrainian people. It was at that meeting that President Putin warned that actions should not be taken that could cause consequences that will be regretful. He warned, he did warn. But we had a president then full of hatred, called Putin a thug, called him every name, and was totally disrespectful of not only the Russian president, but the Russian interest and all the concerns of the Russian political class. He told them off and said that Ukraine had a right to whatever choice they wanted to make as a sovereign nation. History has shown that Ukraine has been the pathway through which Hitler, through which Napoleon, through which European empires had come to attack Russia. Now, under the guise of Ukrainian sovereignty, NATO was intending to pack missiles and weapon systems in Ukraine and threaten Russia. That was how the Russians saw it. And Putin will not have it. It had been long in coming. Since 2008, George Bush proposed that Ukraine will be a member of NATO. And in 2008, Munich Security Summit, Putin, for the very first time, pushed back. That project to make Ukraine a member of NATO has led to the consequences and the tragedy we see today. But today, another reality, full of symbolism and full of images that is causing a lot of distress in quite a number of places all across the world, particularly in Europe, in Ukraine, and among the political class of people in America called the neocons. They were not happy with the images that may have emerged today. as President Putin arrived on American soil, was feted very sumptuously by the President of America, Donald Trump, giving a very robust welcome and had a joint press statements. They didn't have a press conference that would have had question and answer. And at this time I'm making the video, I'm sure the Russian delegation is back on its way to Moscow. Good day and welcome to my channel, Ebima Amungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the issues I discuss in this channel, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. It may be pertinent to share some of the images that came out of today's meeting between Putin and Trump, because already the images may just say more. A lot has already been said. This event has dominated the news cycles all over the world. It is the news of the day. It is the news that has been in all the global channels, and it is the news that has dominated every single news item you can think of. The news of the welcome and arrival of President Putin to America. These images are iconic, and these images tell the story of Trump's reception for Putin. Earlier in the day, there was a welcome by President Putin, President Trump at the Air Force Base, and this is how it went. It was Trump arrived 30 minutes early and put out the red carpet, went down Air Force One to go and receive Putin, who had just arrived also from Russia. He had stayed back in the eastern part of Russia and was welcomed there by President Trump. Trump was very courteous, welcomed him, applauded him. And later on, it emerged in the press statement that President Putin actually said to President Trump, "I'm very happy to see you, my neighbor," because as far as it's concerned, Russia and America are neighbors. And he also went further to say that, "I'm happy to see that you are alive," maybe alluding to the fact that there had been an attempt on Trump's life. So he said he was happy to see that he was alive. And then later on, while they were walking down to a specially constructed theirs, B-1 bomb, B-2 bombers and F-22 Raptors flew overhead. And later, President Trump and President Putin got into the beast, the plane of the American president. Even though the Russian president had his own official car there, they both entered the car of the American president in an unprecedented. It's unprecedented. An American and Russian president had never ridden in the beast before. So there were so many firsts, and there were so many firsts. They stood. This is where the iconic pictures of today were taken, and later on they moved and drove in the presidential plane the presidential official car of President. As this event was going on, the press, the Western press, with their Western narrative, the Western media, where, as far as they are concerned, Putin is a demon, tried to steal the joy and were asking questions to embarrass the president of Russia, but they wouldn't have that chance and that opportunity of a question and answer. They were denied that opportunity because obviously they were planning to ambush the president of Russia with some questions that were part of their own narrative. That opportunity was denied them, and all they got was just a presidential statement by the two presidents. President Putin in the long run did have a lot to say about today's event. He did say that um, the events that led up to this would not have happened if President Trump was president of America. He said it is important that they reset their relationships and that Russia and America do have other considerations to discuss apart from these discussions, this sad reality that had befallen America in the past. I mean, the relationship between America and Russia in the past few years. He mentioned also that President Trump has done so well in trying to bring peace, but that a lasting settlement in the Ukrainian conflict should consider the root cause of he went back to that very root cause, the root cause of the hostilities. And that root cause already, as we know, primarily was NATO expansion, and he was not happy with NATO expansion. He also said that in expanding that way, they were not taking into consideration Russia's security. So he wanted to discuss an architectural framework, a security architectural framework for the whole of Europe that will satisfy everybody. He even said that Ukraine's security should be taken into consideration. Putin did make a lot of statements. As for President Trump said there's no deal until a deal is gotten. He said the discussions were very fair, very productive. In fact, all the members of the delegation of President Putin's team did say that the meeting was very successful in one way or the other, or productive, not necessarily successful. They outlined their position. President Trump got a clearer understanding of the Russian position on things, and he said there had been movement on some things, and he also said there will be possibility of improved trade. And when eventually President Trump said there will be a second meeting, Putin said he hoped that meeting would take place in Moscow. And we have already heard that Ushakov and even Caroline Levitt had said a meeting will take place in Moscow. So it's not, Trump did say that he will get a lot of heat for that if that happened. And but he has said he will talk to NATO, he will talk to Zelensky, and he will talk to all the other parties so that the outcome of this meeting will be known to all. That is what President Trump has said. It was a good meeting. It may not be pertinent for me to start to review all the fine points of the meeting because obviously that will be in the news already. It has been the news. But it's just how, because of the extensive reach of the British news media, which is the BBC and the Sky News, and all the news we consume most times, European and American news in the main news, what we call the mainstream news, it was sad to hear the commentaries of it. It was sad to see how they carried all their biases, their hatred, their every single thing in the narration of the events that were going on. I listened to Sky News particularly, just so that I could get the images and get an understanding of what was going on. It was harrowing for me for the while I was on that channel. And to think that at one time I was a stringer for the British Broadcasting Corporation. It's impossible to even think now that such dribble. But that's their viewpoint, and we all are shaped by this viewpoint. I already had mentioned that President Biden was full of hatred. This war would not have happened if President Biden was not created as an accident of history. He was. He had retired from politics, 47 years as a senator. He had gone. He was not in it anymore. But time and chance favored him. He was now chosen as a candidate of the party, of the Democratic Party. He did a debate in the basement because COVID just came out of nowhere and scuttled President Trump's re-election plans. COVID created opportunities for the Democratic Party. Whether it's true or whether it's not true, there was a big disparity in the numbers that showed up and in the election. There's a 10 million people disparity between the people who voted for Biden and those who voted for Kamala Harris. And in this year, the election was even supposed to have had more turnout. So it's up to historians in time to find out if there was something wrong with that election of 2020. But indeed, that election gave the opportunity to Biden in a manner that nobody foresaw. He did not debate. The political cycle was cut short. There was no large rallies because there was COVID, and COVID was the perfect opportunity that saw President Biden come in. And President Biden came in and he had scores to settle. He had a lot of scores to settle, especially with Putin. And even though Obama, when he was vice president, President Obama had warned him that Russia has escalatory dominance in that region. They may be down, but they are not out. And I was foolhardy of America to try and engage Russia in the war. But what did Biden do? Smart as he was, or smart as he thought he was, he went and rallied around the Europeans who have had a generational, centuries-old hatred of an animosity with the Russians. Yes, he had them. And then he also had the bellicose stand of a president who had campaigned, President Zelensky campaigned that he will make peace with the people of Donbass. That's what won him the election. No, he told him not to make peace. We will stand with you and we will be with you and we'll give you and support you all that as long as it takes, and we will help you destroy Russia. That was the intent, so that when we destroy Russia, you can now get into NATO. It boomeranged on everybody. The Russia we see today has taken over 4 oblasts, 5 now: Crimea, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Luhansk. They are still taking more. Kherson, they are taking more. Sumy, Kharkiv, and they're making vast improvements. So today, President Trump did what he had always wanted to do for 7 years. He said it in 2015. He said, I will try and make peace with the Russians. But what came in? There was big blowback beyond what he ever foresaw. And that blowback was the Russia Gate scandal. Contrived, cooked up by President Obama and his security team. The DNA, the CIA Bremer, the DNA Clapper, all of them, the FBI Comey, all of them, strong and fat members of the deep state, all trying to make sure that President Trump, one, doesn't even become the president of America. And even if he becomes the president of America, he will be impeached. And if he even dares, he will have the possibility of being removed if he continued on that path of trying to improve relationship with the Russians. Of course, at the back of it was the never far away hand of the CIA, of the British MI6 and the British establishment. They were the ones who brought out the Steele dossier, under which a whole lie was cooked up, sold, and the media used as they always do, has always been used. But today we saw tentative steps towards peace. No matter how far it goes, there was a movement in the other side. 4 years of Biden, 3 years of those 4 years, there was no talk, there was no interaction, there was no discussion within the Russians. All we heard continuously, unrelenting, was sanctions, we would destroy the Russian economy, we would destroy this. Putin is a talk. It was the only refrain that dominated and still dominates the European Union. Today would have been a day of recrimination and gnashing of teeth for Ursula von der Leyen. Callas, callous the European Union establishment in all its ramifications, all 25 members that are sold on and bought on to this project to destroy Russia, including the Baltic states, where, though they are small, they exert influence way beyond their size. Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Finland, the newest member. Finland had long relationship, peaceful, neutral relationship with Russia, but they got sold on to this project of fighting against Ukraine. And now they have Iskander missiles facing them, Oreshnik at their border. And then there's a big build-up of the Russian army on their border. They're already worried. They're worried now if this decision to become a member of NATO was to their benefit, especially as Putin has realized, Donald Trump has realized that the security umbrella he assured, America assured Europe has become the reason why Europe, and especially the smallest countries in Europe, are so belligerent. Good neighborliness is not in their dictionary, and old scores, they want America to come and settle with them. Yes, there was a time America could do that. The guys then was holding off communism, but Russia is not more a communist country. The guys also was that the Russians were bad, but we have gone to see that, and that the Russians were weak, and the Russians were they were the most denigrated people in the eyes of most of these countries. Even the 2 million people of Estonia looked at the 150 million people of Russia as barbarians. It's incredible. Just because there is a faraway superpower that gave you the umbrella, and there was a president who came and became a rallying point for all that hate Russia to come together and put an agenda that has left the Europeans destroyed. Their economies are in disarray. Germany has lost its UPSA. It's been emasculated. There's no energy enough to run its big industrial complexes. France, doing very well, but coping with migration problems to the extent now that they are losing power to the National Front. And so they have to use every instrument on machinations and skullduggery, every single style, shenanigan, just to hang on to power and stay away and stave off the surging growth of the National Front. The same in Romania, the same in Poland. Tusk has been chased out. It's a reality that was brought upon them by them being led down as John Maishama would say, the primrose path, all of them collectively by Joe Biden. Today, President Trump took the first steps at healing. He never said that he will get ceasefire. He never said that he will make this meeting that will bring about peace in Ukraine. He just said that he will start the process. And that is one thing that has caused distress in Ukraine. Ukraine now know that from the images, the welcome, the heroes, the way President Putin was feted, it's a very clear sign to Ukraine that there's now a Pharaoh that does not know Joseph. That other Pharaoh that knew Joseph and was working with Joseph to destroy Russia, he's gone. He's gone. He has, at this point, he has quite a lot of health challenges, prostate cancer, dementia. He has a number of challenges because we got to know about that when a real election happened 4 years ago and he was a candidate and he bumbled and forgot. Even at one of those rallies, he actually called President Zelensky President Putin. That's how bad Biden's case was. So it became clear to all that Biden was just spared. and was just an accident of history who got onto the stage because of COVID. He led them and led the whole of Europe down this path. And now they have seen that collectively, all their actions to stop Trump, all their actions to undermine Trump, especially that of the British, who in 2015 brought out the Steele dossier, and in 2020 had Starmer sent 100 delegates to go and support the Democratic Party. It was an active process, still is an active process to undermine Trump. Today, the images that came out of America and that came out of Alaska was one that must have caused them pain, severe pain. Not because Trump has said Putin is doing the right thing. What Trump has just said is you can't get peace without engaging with the other belligerent. You have to know their standpoint. Meanwhile, I've said it already. Peace is Trump's off-ramp from the Ukraine problem. He has no inclination to support Ukraine. He will not do it. He will not give them any money because, like I have said, and I continue to say, and I continue to maintain, President Trump is a human being. He remembers what Zelensky did to him in his first tenure, and he remembers what the Ukrainian NSA official whistleblower did to him. He remembers that the Ukraine people, in supporting Biden, in supporting Hunter Biden, but in protecting Hunter Biden over him, and giving information that led to his impeachment, they owe him one. He will not be their savior. Today, they saw it clearly. There's distress in Kiev. This is where I end my video for today. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments about the events of today, what may have happened, I chose not to go into the minutiae of today's events because I can't detail them more than has been out there. It's very, very clear, but it is the symbolism of the day that I discussed. If you think that Trump is on the right path, if you were impressed by what you saw today, or whatever opinion you think about the Ukrainians, Europeans, Kayakalas, and all the people who once used to say that Trump was Putin's boy, put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Until I see you in my next video. Goodbye.